Welcome to the episode 2 of Coordinated. Today we have the founder of AltLayer. They're doing a bunch of stuff. Started with rollups, and now they're all over the Eigenlayer ecosystem and contributing a lot to the coordination ethos of the space. Like we have the founder, YQ, and like he has a great background in research, doing in like PhDs in distributed systems, P2P networks, cryptography, and all. So we like to know to start with how your research background led you to start AltLayer and eventually come into the Eigenlayer ecosystem.
Yeah. Thanks for the invite. It's amazing to be here and to share more about like sort of what we are doing and what's like sort of the future plan. Yeah, for myself, as you mentioned, right, I came from this academic background, so I started to do a lot of research since 2012, basically publishing research papers on consensus protocols, privacy technologies, and also these peer-to-peer networks. And since sort of 2015, we started to work closely with Ethereum Foundation or Vitalik on doing sort of like this sharding for the public blockchains. And then like later on, as you know, right, I was doing the CTO for this public sharding protocol at Zilliqa. And later on, I also work closely with Gavin Wood on doing some of this app-chain stuff. And since 2021, we started like to do this AltLayer. Basically, at that time, there was no OP Stack or Arbitrum Orbit, but we already started to focus on these application-specific rollups. And as you mentioned, right, for the past few years, we are doing a lot of this research and also development on these kind of scaling solutions, either in the early days on sharding, later app-chain, and also rollups. And for the past sort of 2 years, we set up the official collaborations with OP Arbitrum, Polygon, zkSync, and also a bunch of the other rollup stacks to help them to provide the rollups for different sectors: gaming, social, DeFi, AI. And as you mentioned, right, since 2 years ago, like Shram, good friend of me, so we started to discuss like what kind of collaborations we can have on Eigen. So then, like since last year, we came up with a new concept called Restaked Rollup, and basically to help to decentralize the rollup with shared security and also make it more decentralized with the various like sort of AVSs we provide. And later on, as you know, right, since 2 months ago, we launched the sort of platform called Wizard to provide this AVS as service. So that really like because we've been through a lot of these development with Eigen, like basically providing this AVS midnights on top of Eigen. So we learned a lot from that. So we really want to streamline the entire development process for Eigen AVS and also the deployment part for it. So that's also why recently we proposed this Wizard, the AVS as service platform. Yeah.
So like as you mentioned, one key thing, I think Restaked Rollups. I think couple of weeks back, I just posted a thread about Restaked Rollups.
Yes.
And more than the like support from the like more people reading it, I think many people were hearing this term for the first time.
Yeah.
Even like many people say no, they're in the ecosystem for 2-3 years. They haven't heard of the term Restaked Rollups. So I just want to know from you and like how the like listeners how to understand of the thing Restaked Rollups.
Yeah, so for Restaked Rollup, right? So when we talk about Restaked Rollup, we have to understand what are the sort of drawbacks of all the existing rollup stacks, right? Like for example, we already have OP Stack, Arbitrum, and all different ZK rollup stacks. The issue is, okay, right now we only have a single sequencer, basically for all of them. And it's okay, like probably for some big projects like OP Arbitrum, because we trust them, right, somehow. And but for some new projects, which we launch a rollup for them, the community may not have the trust on them. So because the single sequencer and even we have proof system, right, but still run within like sort of the same entity. So in that case, like we want to have this decentralized verification system. Like basically any blocks generated by the sequencer, we want to have a standalone protocol to really do the extra verification of it, to make sure like, okay, all the blocks and transactions generated by it can be verified by a third party before posting to the Ethereum or the L1. So that's sort of like the rationale behind this Vital is basically a decentralized verification network, and to do this extra verification for the blocks and transactions generated by the sequencer. And on top of that, we also have Mark. It's a Fast Finality layer. And after you do all the decentralized verification, right, that would be great. You can have some use cases on top of that. One thing is sort of this Fast Finality layer. Basically, between this like sort of the transaction sent to a sequencer generate the blocks on the L2 and later it posted to the L1, right? And then the L1, typically Ethereum, right, has some finality time. Like typically it takes like 12 or 30 minutes to finalize. So in that case, there's a big gap between like transaction sequenced by the sequencer and also the time when the block is finalized on the L1. So that'd be great. Like we leverage like sort of the Vital, and on top of that, we build the Mark to provide this fast finality. So this dedicated network, the nodes operators, they can do the verification via this Vital, and after that, they can also provide some extra services. For example, the fast finality for the DeFi protocols, bridges on top of these L2s. And on top of that, right? Okay, we discussed like how we really patch these existing sort of rollup systems without really touching their code, without any changes of the code base, right? Then if we can really change the code base, so the best thing we want to have is really about decentralized sequencing. So that's why we also have this Squad. It's another like decentralized network. It's basically an AVS system, onboard a bunch of operators and run the sequencing for the rollup. So in that case, like compared to Vital and Mark, just to do this post sequencing verification, right? We can directly make the sequencing part also relatively decentralized. So that's why, like after a bunch of these discussions with Shram since last year, we came up with a concept called Restaked Rollup. So Restaked Rollup is a framework. We don't really change like sort of the existing stacks of OP, Arbitrum, and all the other rollups, but we provide these three separated AVS system to help them to make it like sort of more secure with the Vital and Mark, and more decentralized with Squad. So that's basically the how the concept was like that. And but at the same time, unless you are a rollup, you really want to decentralize your like sort of system, then like definitely the existing like sort of AVSs will provide sort of a best fit for your system. Of course, like as I mentioned, right, like yesterday we made another big announcement on Vital. So right now, not just a decentralized verification, we also embed a multi-prover system into it. So right now you can have this, for example, the ZK prover from Succinct, Zero, or Nebra, also the TE prover from Automata. And so in that case, we can immediately help all the rollups from state 0 to state 2. That's another like sort of very good feature this Vital AVS can provide for all the existing rollups or for the new rollups. Yeah.
I'll come to the Vital part a little bit in depth, since it's a very big announcement of AltLayer in the recent times. I think I'll want to touch a little bit upon Mac.
Yes.
Because I think Mac is the only AVS till yesterday which was live for a long time. Big chains like Dodo and a few others, they have used the Mac to be AVS on Eigenlayer.
Yes.
Just want to know about a little bit how you, like you being a rollup, solve this problem. Like what's the approach of solving this problem of fast finality, and like how these chains which are already live, like Dodo and the others, are using the stack. If you just want to go a little bit depth.
Yeah, so the good thing, as I mentioned, right, we don't want to have any intrusive changes on the stack. So, and at the same time, we also want to provide this seamless user or developer experience for all the existing rollups. So, as you mentioned, right, for Mark, since January, we already launched a bunch of these Mark AVSs for our Restaked Rollup clients, right? For example, on social side, we have Cyber. Gaming side, we have Xtereo. DeFi side, we have Dodo, and also DP, we have GM Network, right? So the good thing is like you can treat it as when developer or user use it, right? You can just use the RPC endpoint. You won't really need to integrate with anything about the AVS because we already abstract away all the complexity. So what you want to use is directly the RPC endpoint. you can directly use RPC endpoint. We provide if like basically it's a seamless. You don't see any like sort of blockers or hurdles for your integration or for your applications. The main reason that we make it in an optimistic way. So the AVS, I mean the operators only trigger to submit like sort of ZK proof and or do the challenge when there's something wrong about this sequencer. So in that case, as you can see, right, because for most of the rollups, like normally you won't see a malicious sequencer. So once there's some sequencer or the sequencer doing something wrong, or this sequencer got hacked, right, doing something wrong, then this kind of mark AVS will be triggered. A bunch of operators will just report, okay, the sequencer is wrong, is basically posted some double spend like transactions to the L1. So that's why so far, like if you look at this mark sort of AVS, right, you don't see a lot of these on-chain activities because nothing wrong happening on this sequencer yet. So in that case, as you can see, right, we just try to minimize like sort of the changes on the existing rollup stacks, and for basically the midnight like sort of rollups or restaked rollups, once we tap this mark into it, people typically don't really feel like, okay, there's a middleware AVS there. Like we don't want to provide these extra integration docs, right? People have to understand how the AVS is running and how to do very complex integration with this AVS. Because we already finished all the heavy lifting. So for the developers and users, they just need to connect to the RPC endpoint. All the things just happening behind the scenes. Like operators do all the work. If nothing wrong, as everything's fine. If something is wrong, these operators will just kick in and we will start to do the challenge and do the verification and just make sure like the sequencer is always behaving honestly. Yeah.
Just adding on this, I think you mentioned the operators will kick in. Does it mean it will use Eigenlayer's slashing as a feature, or is it something by AltLayer which they will use?
So far, so all these mark AVS, the three AVSs I mentioned, right? Everything on Eigen, and at the same time for the operators, as you know, right? So far the slashing is not enabled yet. So right now, instead of the slashing, we have this sort of ejection mechanism. For the operators, if you are not doing work actively, after a period of time, we will kick you out from this network. Because once you are in the network, right, you will have some incentives and tokens probably in the future, right, as rewards. But if you are kicked out, like nothing you have. So it's sort of like typically I call it like slashing is more like this aggressive penalty on these operators, because like also staker, right? Because it will slash your capital. But right now the way we do is sort of like we don't slash your capital, but we will slash your future rewards. You lose the opportunity to get the future rewards. We are sort of like one of these like two types of AVS on Eigen right now, having this kind of a liveness check and also this kind of ejection mechanism. One is this Eigen DA, the other is basically our mark AVS. Yeah.
Cool. I think that sums up like what Mac is and how like projects with fast, like who wants to use Fast Finality can use that part of the AVS. Moving on to like Vital, I think first like congratulations on the launch.
Yeah, thank you.
And the second thing is like in the tweet announcement also we saw it enables any rollup now to reach stage 2.
Yeah.
I think till now, I think Fuel was the first one to reach stage 2, followed by letting Arbitrum and Optimism.
Yeah.
But now
there's still stage 1.
Hasn't the Optimism?
No, not yet. Yeah.
I think Fuel is the only one.
I can explain about the stage stuff. After your question.
Yeah, sure. So my question is, first in a very simple way, what stage 2 is, because we have seen a lot of that in L2 beats. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 0, and like Vitalik also said, I think we will only track stage 2 rollups, something like that. So how it like basically what is stage 2 and how Vital enables any rollup to be a stage 2 rollup?
Yeah, it's a good question. So first we need to categorize like the rollups into different stages. So far, based on definition from either this Ethereum forum or the L2 bit, they have this state 0 to state 2, right? The state 0 basically, you don't need to have any proof system. You don't need a fraud proof. You don't need a like sort of validity proof as a ZK rollup. So by default, it's sort of like your state 0. And then stage 1 requires minimum 1 proof system. It's like either fraud proof, fault proof, or this kind of ZK proof. So in that case, right now, as I mentioned, right, OP and Arbitrum, they are in stage 1. And then, of course, there are some other non-technical requirements. For example, for your security console or the multi-sig wallet, like sort of Ethereum for upgrade and also bug fixing, right? It requires multiple, like sort of these kind of members into it. You should also have a delay for 7 days if there are any major upgrade. And then for stage 2, it requires minimum 2 proof system. You need to have a ZK proof or this fraud proof plus probably another proof system like TE proof system, right? And beyond that, also the delay becomes longer at 30 days. When you want to upgrade, you should like inform the community 30 days before the upgrade. So what we like with Vital, right? What we enable is basically to remove these technical blockers. It's basically about we can directly provide you like at least 2 proof system immediately to your rollup. And of course, for the non-technical ones, you have to, for the project, right, you need to decide internally whether you want to enable the 7-day or 30-day delay on some major upgrade. But for the technical part, as I mentioned, right, we work with the Succinct, Restaked and also Libra and also Automata just to enable this multiple proof system. So like for some existing rollup, right, if they want or they have some budget, right, we can help them to add multiple proof systems and at least basically remove the technical blockers for them to move from stage 0 to stage 2. That's sort of the technical part we can provide. Yeah, regarding the non-technical part, as I mentioned, right, they have to figure out themselves within their governance system. Yeah.
Cool. I think that sums up Vital, how the new announcement can enable anybody to use the stage 2 part. I think one question I want to ask is, I think before Eigenlayer,
Yeah.
or I think still now you have a dedicated rollup as a
Yes,
service, right?
yes.
Like we can think it as an SDK where anybody can spin up a rollup without thinking about all the backend complexities and all. So like my question, I know it varies from use case to use case, but what do you think when a person should use rollup as a service, or when someone should use Restaked Rollup as a service? How can we differentiate that?
So the thing is like for all the partners we have or clients we have, right, we always recommend them to directly go to Restaked Rollup, because the thing is for rollup, right, it's good like we can quickly launch them within a few minutes, either OP Stack, Arbitrum, Orbit. But the thing is like as I just mentioned, right, there's still a lot of drawbacks. For example, a single sequencer. And at the same time, you don't really have a lot of this security guarantee, and you don't have this fast finality. That's why, if possible, we always recommend them to directly go to Restaked Rollup. So in that case, we can quickly help them to remove these drawbacks, right? And with this either Vital mark or this, if they want decentralized sequencing, we can also provide support. So that's something like we always feel that okay, if there's a way for you to do it since day 1, right, that would be great, like directly go into this Restaked Rollup. Yeah.
Cool. I think following up with this question is, I think as you have mentioned this thing like OP Stack, Arbitrum Stack, maybe polygons, I think aggregation stack, a few ZK stacks by ZK Sync. We are all like getting into Restaked Rollups with the improvised version of all these things. But why protocols are using more OP Stack, Arbitrum Stack? Is there a lack of education, or is it the use case is not fitting in well? What is the thing?
So I think the main reason that at least based on our conversation, I would say it's the cost to launch OP Stack or Arbitrum Orbit much lower than launching like sort of ZK rollup. Especially the proving cost. I mean, to run a prover, it takes like probably over 10K every month. And beyond that, you also have some extra proof verification costs on Ethereum. And these costs are basically proportional to the number of transactions you process every month. So it will be very big if you really have a lot of transactions. So I think that's one of the major reasons like people prefer OP Stack and Arbitrum Orbit. But on our side, right, we always happy to provide what kind of stacks you want. And on top of that, as I just mentioned, right, all these Restaked Rollup features, they are sort of like agnostic to the existing rollup stack. So you can choose your stack, and beyond that, if you want, you can definitely also choose the AVS you want. Yeah.
Cool. I think last question about the rollup part before I'll go. If you ask a few questions about AVSs, I think we have seen many tweets from many people. Hey, there will be future, there will be 1,000 rollups.
Yes.
Already L2 bits are tracking 100 rollups. So how are you seeing the rollup future? And how multiple rollups, let's say we have 1,000 rollups, I think we will be getting there. How all the rollups will coexist with each other?
Yeah, I just feel like right now the community probably already have this rollup or L2 fatigue. It's just so many rollup, people want to differentiate from one to another one. So the thing is, like, I just feel like in the next few years, probably we just have top 5, top 10 general purpose rollups. But for all the new ones, they will just be application specific, or basically they will have some very unique features for rollup. For example, like this ENS just announced they will launch a rollup for their like sort of service, right? It's called name chain. Yeah, so that one you can see, right? It's just like the main purpose is just for ENS and also for the name services,
like
right?
Identity protocol.
Yes. And beyond that, we also have this Unichain, right? But for Unichain, they claim that it's just mainly for DeFi. And there's a bunch of new services. For example, the existing rollout we have to launch like Cyber just focusing on social applications, like Xterra just on these gaming applications. As you can see, right, more and more rollups, they will be this kind of application specific. So that's like even in the future, we have tons of thousands like sort of rollups, right? I just feel like most of the users, when they choose general purpose ones, they probably just top 5, top 10. I would just use OP or Base or Arbitrum. But if there's some like sort of application rollups, right, then they will have their own like sort of ecosystem users. For example, for some particular applications or sectors, right, I would just choose that sector's rollups to use. Yeah.
Cool. I think that is a pretty deep dive thoughts on like the rollup system. I think another part, I think coming back to the coming now to Wizard, which is another important tooling. I think not many people are aware of that.
Yes.
Because you do so many things. But before going to Wizard, I want to ask one question. We have having this discussion before. That people have heard of AVSs.
Yes.
But even the most like advanced minds are like, okay, what is AVS? So like, just want to like, if you can just tell in very short and a very comprised manner, what is an AVS? How will you put?
For me, AVS is just like basically build sort of services in a decentralized manner. That's it. It's basically whatever services or whatever protocol or software, right, you want to build. And then with AVS, we can make it decentralized. You get my point, right? It's I don't want to make it so complicated. Say like, okay, we need to build a middleware and we need to have this proof of stake network. But in general, I would just say, okay, if we want to build an AVS, right, it's basically we just help you to put your service in a decentralized manner. Decentralized manner means we will run this proof of stake network with the restaking component into it. But in general, it's just like we try to help you to decentralize your service.
So just following up on that thing, like Sriram mentioned one thing very often, right? Eigenlayer is like the verified AWS.
Yes.
And you can build verified software.
So
like now, whatever we have in the Web2 stack, everything can be launched as a verified version of it? Is it possible?
At least that's one of the targets we want to achieve with Wizard. So Eigen wants to become this verifiable cloud, right? For the Wizard, you can treat it as a Vercel. So basically, we just help you to launch a sort of website in this kind of context without any hassle.
So like now, like as you mentioned about the wizard part, I think just want you to your more thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Like basically, I think as you mentioned, anybody can launch
Yes.
any AVS on wizard.
Yeah.
So like how, let's say, existing protocol who has, let's say, recent TVL,
Yeah.
60-70 billion TVL,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
want to expand to the next stage. So how they can and they're thinking to, okay, Eigenlayer is there, this verified software, and they're understanding the tech, how they can use wizard in their product roadmap.
So back to the sort of the service the wizard can provide, right? I just feel like for any existing or new projects, if they want to build AVS in Eigen, at least from our perspective, based on like sort of these 2 years experience working with Eigen, we just feel like you should really just focus on your business model, and we will help you to do all the heavy lifting with some like sort of existing either boilerplates or templates from this wizard. So you can just focus on your business logic. You just build like sort of the software, and later we can put into a Docker. That's it. We will handle all these on-chain smart contracts, BRS aggregation, and what you need to do is just figure out like how to package your software into a Docker, and then we can distribute where this sort of wizard into the different operators. Yeah, so that's the target. That's basically back to a point as I mentioned, right? Shram has all the great ideas. He has a very strong research team. In general, the Eigen protocol is very complex, and there's so many components. If you are like sort of a super senior and experienced developer in Eigen for probably over 1 year or something, you carefully read all the smart contracts and also all the code, probably you can really maximize like the usage of Eigen. I mean, entire protocol. But if you're really new to Eigen and to build the AVS, and if you don't really have a very big team to do all the research on Eigen protocol, we really recommend probably directly go through the wizard. Yeah, just to use it and to launch whatever AVS you want. Yeah, because that's the most straightforward way. And the first principle for wizard is that we will just make everything is Eigen AVS SDK equivalent. We don't build another middleware or SDK on top of it. We just make it seamless. It's exactly the same Eigen SDK. We just provide this sort of streamlining the development and also deployment process for the AVS. We just simplify everything, streamline everything. But in the end, it's still exactly the Eigen's SDK. Yeah.
Cool. I think that gives the I think the overview. I think honestly it's a very complex thing itself. As you mentioned, Eigenlayer is, in my little research, it itself is a very complex thing.
Yeah.
But I think whatever you mentioned, whatever you discussed, it sums up the various stacks. I think 3 main stacks which you have: the rollup stack, Restaked Rollup stack, and the wizard which you launched recently. And think people get like, the devs can hear this and can get an idea, okay, what things are.
Yes.
And they can come and ask you questions to develop the next stage. I think the last question before we wrap up is how you are seeing AltLayer's endgame with Eigenlayer.
Yeah.
How do you want to take this?
So as I mentioned, right, like you mentioned, we have a lot of services. Actually, in the end, we just have 2 things. You can treat it, it's very straightforward. So if developers or the partners or clients, they want something on-chain, we will provide this rollup as a service or Restaked Rollup as a service. But if they want something off-chain computation, we just provide the AVS as a service. It's very straightforward. It's basically we try to cover both on-chain services and also off-chain services. And the thing is like with Eigen, I always say that there's so many, complexity and also some of these new features on Eigen, right? We always want to make AVS as a separate category in the long run, similar to Rollup. So that's basically the target, like with Wizard or all the products we are offering, right? Any developers, no matter it's crypto or Web2, right? They should just build whatever application they want. And then you treat Wizard or us as sort of this platform for you just to quickly launch it, and you can also import your existing AVS, do the editing. and you can just treat it as I mentioned, right, like a Vercel. You directly build the application in AVS, and or you directly build application in this Restaked Rollup. So that's sort of the role we want to play. Like if you have an idea, you want to build whatever stuff, you just go to AltLayer's platform and just launch. If it's pure on-chain, you launch like sort of this Restaked Rollup yourself. If it's off-chain, you directly launch AVS yourself via this AltLayer's platform. Yeah.
Cool. I think thanks for coming in and telling us about all the AltLayer stacks. I
Yes.
wish you very best for the next expansion. And
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.